It's about the I got to say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
Gets the ball, gets back, pulls up for the win. Got it! Detroit basketball. Oh, Holloman looks the clock. Half court for the win. Oh! The Lions go for it. The Vikings bring it in. The pass is a touchdown to give. Javi Baez homered earlier. First one in the air, deep left field again. Yes, Tigers win. Javi is unstoppable.
This is BS Sports.
And, I'm stupid. And away we go. I forgot to click that thing. Sometimes I make those goofy mistakes. Did Wenzel Perez, is that yesterday they're showing? Yeah, that's yesterday's home run. How do they do that with the floating bat? That's crazy. Anyway, welcome in. We got another great show. Trade deadline is now past us. We got to talk about all of that because a lot has happened. Teams that I expected to see a lot of moves did not make any moves. Teams that I thought there's no way this team does not sell decided to opt out of the trade deadline and everything in between. Namely, of course, is our beloved Tigers, who we will get to. I also have some Lions preseason quote-unquote reaction. I mean, can you really analyze the Hall of Fame game? We'll try. We'll see what happens. We have our top men on it, and well, the results may vary. We'll just say that. As well as a few other little pieces of NFL news. The NFL season is closer than you think. I mean, we're about a month out to, game number 1. We're less than that, because isn't it? I believe it is September the 4th is week 1. I could be wrong about that. No, I'm pretty sure that is the case because the Lions play the day before my birthday this year. Anyways, we got a lot to talk about. So I want to start just by talking Tigers trade deadline, and then we'll get into the rest of the league because that is its own conversation. I want to try to remain focused on what matters to moi, which is fine. It's my show. My show. Anyway, the Tigers basically said, we need a bunch of pitchers. And a bunch of pitchers they got. They traded before the deadline proper. They traded for Chris Paddock, who is starting today. Unfortunately, gave up 3 runs in the first. But his first outing, I believe, was last Wednesday. He actually pitched a shutout against the Diamondbacks. So, we'll see how that works out. From there, they traded for Rafael Montero. They gave up a double-A infielder, who I don't believe was ranked in the prospect pool. It could have been. I didn't see. They also traded for Paul Sewald in exchange for cash. They then sent Paul Sewald, I believe, to the 60-day IL. So not sure if we're going to see him, but basically they paid to bring him in. Pretty much, I guess, a free agent to a certain extent. Then they trade for Charlie Morton, giving up a double-A pitcher who was unranked. I know that for sure. And the biggest move, I suppose, outside of the Paddock move, they trade for Kyle Finnegan. They give up a couple of pitching prospects. One of them, their number 15th ranked prospect according to MLB. And you look at their stats, you look at how they've done on the year, at least for the ones that I even knew the name of, which was Kyle Finnegan and Charlie Morton. You kind of scratch your head because Charlie Morton, I don't know what his ERA is now because he had a really nice night on Sunday against Philadelphia. But did I say Kyle Morton? Charlie Morton. I don't know if I mixed them up, but Charlie Morton, his ERA was in the 5s. And Kyle Finnegan, I believe, was pretty close to 5 as well. Now, granted, both those guys, since getting traded here, both of them have pitched pretty well. Obviously, Morton only the one outing on Sunday, but to a really good Phillies team on the road. And Finnegan, same deal. He pitched a couple of times against the Phillies. He pitched once against I believe he pitched against the Phillies on Saturday, and then he pitched last night, saving the game against the Twins. Both of them didn't give up a run. But then you think, okay, well, what's the point of Paul Sewald and what's the point of Rafael Montero? And I don't really have an answer to that because I don't know. The only thing I will say is, well, they didn't really give up a whole lot for those guys, so it's kind of a low risk, high reward. You give up nothing to get a depth piece. So that's sort of my approach. Is okay, they went out. What was the assignment essentially at the trade deadline? It was get better. And I think it's pretty obvious to me they got better at the deadline. It's not as though they got worse, which would be if they just, I guess, didn't do anything, because then by comparison's sake, they would have been worse than other teams. They went out and they got themselves 2 starting pitchers. Granted, they've lost one with Reese Olson, so they kind of replace him with Paddock/Morton. But 2 starting pitchers that I think both can be solid for you in a short stint, which is sort of where we're at. You're only a 2-month span in the regular season, and then you're into the postseason. And they get Kyle Finnegan, who I think is a really solid reliever. He's not, Johan Duran. We'll get to him later, but he's going to be pretty solid. And Chris Fetter, I trust his ability to get the best out of these pitchers. The question is, well, kind of twofold. Number one, did the Tigers do enough? Are they, quote unquote, back to being a World Series contending team? And the follow-up is this team too conservative? Are they not willing to go out and make that big swing splash move? They didn't get David Bednar. They didn't get Eugenio Suarez. They didn't get Johan Duran. They didn't even get Willie Castro. But again, there is this bubbling up of a lot of the sentiment of, I think, fans that have somewhat unrealistic expectations as to how this team is going to operate. The one thing I know is that this team is not going to operate like it did with Dave Dombrowski, because Scott Harris has not shown that that's the kind of GM that he is going to be. So the idea that we were going to trade anybody in our top 4 or even our top 5 was completely out of the realm possibility. So they weren't going to do that. So any player that went for a top 4 or 5 prospect in our system or in some other team system wasn't going to happen with us. The other thing, though, that does really bother me is this weird sentiment that, well, they just don't want to win. And this is made more front and center based on Scott Harris's comments after the trade deadline, where he was quoted as saying a couple of things. The first thing that he said was that he just didn't believe the Tarek Skubal window was a thing. Like, he didn't believe that there is such a thing as a window. He said, he used the word illusion and not illusion. The other thing he said, and we'll take these piece by piece. The other thing he said, oh, hold on. What was the other thing he said? I just totally lost it. Okay, we'll start about the illusion. As far as that goes, my thought is, okay, what is he going to say? Like, realistically, what is he going to say? Well, we got about 3 years, and then we'll just be bad again. It's like, well, no, he's not going to say. He's going to say, yeah, of course. Like, there's every year we believe we are good enough to win. There's no, we have a 3-year window where we're going to be, trying to win. We're always trying to win. So that one didn't really bother me. The other thing, okay, now I remember. The other thing that people got really upset about, I don't know why, but they got upset because he said, my job is to make the playoffs. And people were like, oh, your job is not to make the playoffs. It's to win a World Series. And why didn't you say your job is to win a World Series? This might come as a shock to some people. And it was a shock to me. I didn't know this. In order to win the World Series, you have to make the playoffs. People don't know this. It's like, okay, if we're really going to get on semantics, when he got here, he said the goal was to win a World Series. Has that changed? Did he actually say, you know what, actually, I don't want to win a World Series anymore? No. He's saying the goal is to make the playoffs in order to win a World Series, not just, hang a banner for Detroit Tigers 2025 made the playoffs. No, that's obviously not what was meant. And you would have to be foolishly naive and incredibly uncharitable to Scott Harris to say that that's what he meant. That basically what he meant was, no, I just want to make the playoffs and just be good and not ever actually win a title. And there is this sentiment among some fans that there is, you have two options where it's you either go all in and that's the only way to win a championship, or you don't ever do anything of risk and you just wait for the kids and you'll just be forever good. And neither of these are really realistic. There are times when you will have to make a big move that shocks the league or shocks fans at the very least. There may also be times where that move just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And maybe the way they saw it, and whether they're right or wrong, the moves that got made, namely probably for Eugenio Suarez or David Bednar or Durant or whomever, they just didn't make any sense given how they're viewing this. See, because they're not viewing it from this is the only year that the Tigers will ever be good. They're viewing it from okay, we really want these guys in our system for obviously their own sake as players, but also for potential moves in the future. I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm just saying that's probably what they're thinking. As far as whether I think the Tigers did enough, well, they have one of the top records in the American League. They have a really solid pitching staff, and they have probably the best pitcher in baseball in Tarek Skubal. He's almost certainly going to win Cy Young again this year. As far as their offense goes, as much as I would have liked to see another bat, their offense is pretty solid as well. I mean, especially when you add Kerry Carpenter back in from the injury list, the offense immediately showed itself to be much better. Again, the goal of the deadline was to get better, and they got better. So I'm not going to be, throwing my hair, lighting my hair on fire and yelling and screaming, because it's not like they just sat there and said, we like our guys, we're not going to do anything. They acknowledged a need, especially in the pitching staff, maybe almost entirely in the pitching staff. And they made moves that made sense to them. And this is the other thing too, because what people will say is, oh, well, what do you mean? Why didn't they go out and get Durant? Well, maybe because Durant was not shopped to them, or maybe because when Durant was shopped to them, the Twins said, we want this player and this player and this player, and those players weren't an option. It just wouldn't have made any sense. But for the Phillies, where he did end up going, they actually wanted these particular players that the Phillies were more willing to part with. Again, maybe the strategy will work for the Phillies, maybe it won't. The point is, they're not it's not some universal thing where it's our 4-6 versus the Phillies 4-6. No, these teams eye particular players, and they set a price in their head about what players they're willing to take or willing to give up for these other players. And that's just how it is. It's not a 1-to-1. It's not fantasy football, or I guess in this case, fantasy baseball. So am I overly ecstatic about the deadline? No, I think that would be stupid and homerish. Am I in total disrepair that I think this team was obfuscating on its duty and not actually doing what's right for the team? No, because that's also stupid. The team got better. We'll see if these moves, ultimately show their value over time. But I can't look at outside of maybe Paul Sewald and Montero. I look at the moves made, and I'm like, okay, pretty solid moves. The team acknowledged a need and didn't just sit around and let teams trade away and get better while they sat around and did nothing. So a fine deadline, not a blockbuster amazing deadline, but sometimes you don't want perfect to be the enemy of good. So you do the right moves, and you continue to do the right moves, and you continue to make the team better, and that's really all you can do. what is up with Cody Clemens? Former Tiger. I guess he likes hitting in this ballpark. 2 doubles tonight. Like, honestly, what is going on? He never did that when he was here. This is what annoys me. Okay, it's not like Cody Clemens is not very good. And he's been on like 3 teams, I think, since he left here. It's like he never did that when he was here. Like, it's not like he's good now. It's just that now he's like doing things. He's just whatever. I'm angry with him. Didn't amount to anything because he just popped out in the next at bat. But anyway, so I also do want to briefly talk about this. I didn't mention it in the segment, but as far as the Tigers' schedule goes, this should really be a month where we can just be in the clear for this division. Obviously, right now we're losing to the Twins, but we came back from the Twins' deficit last night. So, and then they scored 3 runs last night as well. So it's not. This game is definitely not out of our range here. But after the Twins, you get the day off on Thursday. Then you get the Angels at home over the weekend. The Angels are terrible. You should just, honestly, it would be nice if you could sweep them, but I'll take, winning 2 out of 3. Then you go on the road to face the White Sox. You better sweep them. It's the White Sox. Just sweep them. You're the first place team in the Central. You're one of the top teams in America. Just sweep the White Sox. Then you got 4 games again against the Twins on the road. And again, the Twins are not good. They sold massively at the deadline. So you should be able to take 3 out of those 4, if not 2 out of those 4. Then you got the Astros at home. That's probably your toughest series of the month. You get the break on Thursday. You get the Royals at home. The A's on the road. The A's are a unserious team playing in an unserious ballpark. You get that Thursday, and then you take on the Royals at home to end the month, or on the road to end the month. So a lot of games against Central opponents, namely the Twins, White Sox, and Royals. I don't know when we play Cleveland next, but not this month. So take advantage. And I said this in, I think, July, actually. I think it was July. Maybe it was June. It might have been June, actually. Yeah, no, it was June. June, I said take advantage. And for the most part, I'd say they did, but they were kind of sloppy. This would be a nice time to really take advantage. It'd be nice to get hot as you are getting closer and closer to the postseason. You can't really control how you're going to perform one way or the other. I've seen teams that go in cold or teams that go in hot, and the results vary in both cases. As Jake Rogers grounds out. That's fantastic, Jake. Please just take advantage. I mean, 2 of these series at least, you should have a sweep, right? I mean, you got the A's and the White Sox. I know it's on the road, but still, I mean, you got to be able to sweep those teams, right? God, I hope so. God, I hope so. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of the trade deadline, and then we'll get into some winners and losers. So I'll just real quick just run down these moves. These are not every move, but these are the moves that I thought were interesting or big, whatever you want to call it. So first things first, Eugenio Suarez goes back to Seattle for 3 total prospect, a couple of pictures, and a first baseman. That is Seattle's number 9, 16, and 17 ranked. Johan Duran goes to the Phillies for a couple of prospects, a catcher and a pitcher, ranked 4 and 6. Shane Bieber goes to the Blue Jays for their number 5 prospect, a pitcher. Mason Miller and JP Sears go to the Padres for the number 3 overall prospect in baseball, as well as a few other prospects, all in the top 17 of San Diego's system. Bednar goes to the Yankees. Pirates get 3 prospects, number 8, 14, and then an unranked prospect. Carlos Correa goes to the Astros for a minor league pitcher. Merrill Kelly to the Rangers for 3 pitching prospects ranked 5, 9, and 13. And Willie Castro goes to the Cubs for a couple of pitching prospects. So again, those are not every move. Those are the moves that caught my attention. And now we got a couple of winners and losers. I got 3 winners and 3 losers. So winner number 1 to me is the Mariners. I think they had the most solid of deadlines, just given the fact you have Eugenio Suarez back. He was the biggest bat name for sure. We'll see if he ends up working out for them because he was kind of cooling off there closer to the deadline. But still, you went out and you swung for it. You also got, oh my gosh, what's his name? Naylor as well from the Diamondbacks. So they really took two of the Diamondbacks' best players up to this point and made them their own. So good moves there for the Mariners. I think right now they're a serious contender in the American League to at least make the World Series. They already have, Julio Rodriguez, and they got, oh my gosh, what is his name? Cal Raleigh as well, who's having an MVP type season. So I think for sure the Mariners are a team to be looking out for in the American League, and they went out and they got better. So absolutely great move for them. The other team, the Phillies, they pick up probably the top closer that I don't think most people thought was going to be available, but Minnesota was on an absolute fire sale. So they pick him up. They give up two pretty big prospects, but it's Dave Dombrowski. He does not care about prospects, and knowing Dave Dombrowski's drafting ability, those prospects will probably actually not work out anyway. But they pick up one of the top closers. One of the other things about Dave Dombrowski teams, they usually don't have great bullpens, but they go ahead and they get probably the best bullpen pitcher right now outside of, honestly, it probably is one of the best right now. Maybe Aroldis Chapman. I think he's hurt, I'm pretty sure. But either way, going to be helpful for them in their playoff run because they're obviously going to make the playoffs and they're needing to make a big run because they have, since losing that World Series to the Astros a few seasons ago, they have done nothing but get worse in the playoffs. So now immediately I feel like they are one of the two or three contenders there in the National League. Final winner I have. This was just, I don't know. It just felt right. Astros getting Carlos Correa to me. They didn't have to give up a whole lot. I think they're paying a significant amount of that contract, but the Carlos Correa on the Minnesota Twins always felt weird. Like, to me, when he initially went to free agency, I thought for sure the Tigers were going to land him. It just felt like too good to be true. AJ Hinch, Tigers needed a shortstop. He was a free agent, and he ends up going to the Twins, and then he tries to leave, but he fails the physical with the Giants, and then he comes back to the Twins. The organization in Minnesota, it just kind of felt like he was just falling back to them. It wasn't like that was his first choice. So it seems like, obviously he's a very good player. So, good guy to have on your roster. And again, the Astros, they just don't go away. They have been good now for like over a decade, or at least close to it. They have just consistently been good. And it's funny, 10 years ago, Correa was on that team that obviously they didn't win the World Series or anything, but one of the first few, I think that was their first playoff run. I could be wrong about that, but it's just crazy to think that Correa is back in Houston. We're just going to all pretend collectively that he never actually left. And it's funny. The very same thing could happen to Alex Bregman next year because he's going to be a free agent pending, what ends up happening in Boston. But yeah, the Astros are still a frightening team. Just how they are. And now we get to the losers. Now, I'm going to start actually with a loser that I'm like, okay, right now they feel like losers, but I'm not sure if they necessarily will be losers. The Twins. My goodness. My goodness gracious me. That was brutal. That was brutal. They sold like everybody. Willie Castro gone. Carlos Correa gone. Duran gone. I was surprised they didn't trade Byron Buxton. Like I was waiting for like that alert of Byron Buxton to the Yankees or Byron Buxton to the Dodgers or what. Look, the thing that I will say about this, and the reason why I don't think they're outright complete, embarrassing, sad, despairing losers, you get a bunch of prospects, and prospects are like lottery tickets. If your GM is worth anything, which he may or may not be, you got to have at least gotten somebody that's going to be decent for you. I mean, even the late, great Al Avila, he at least got us a decent defensive catcher in Jake Rogers, who had like maybe 1 or 2 seasons of offensive production. That's pretty, unless this guy is worse than Al Avila and he didn't get anything, That would be bad. That would be very bad. But, largely a sad day, I guess, for Twins fans because, of course, you don't want to see your star players get dealt, but that's baseball. That's how it works. That's how Mafia works. So now these other teams, I am going to be very mean because these teams not doing anything is truly, and I mean this, truly criminal. Like this stuff needs to get actually investigated. I'm only half joking. The Chicago White Sox, when I saw a report that Luis Robert was not getting traded, I just about threw up. I was like, I see that, and I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Luis Robert. Who's Luis Robert? Well, let's take a look together, shall we? Luis Robert is not an amazing ball player, but not a bad ball player. He has, this year, not been too good. But he's only a few years removed from an all-star season. He's been a DH for a good amount of time. And look, could you have gotten a haul for him? No team is going to give him a major amount for him. But he's 28 years old, and he's a designated hitter who, a righty bat as well. You're telling me you can't even have gotten cash? I mean, he's not sticking around, right? He's a free agent. You're telling me no team would have wanted to get a guy who, at his peak, hit 38 home runs? Obviously, I know it's been a while since he's done that. Last year he really fell off from that 2023 season. Maybe they should have gotten rid of him in 2023. You can't, you can't cry over spilled milk. That ship has already sailed. But you're telling me even if it wasn't him, there's nobody that you wanted to get rid of on this White Sox team? Nobody that you couldn't even get rid of for cash. That is the bare minimum. You couldn't just say, please pay for us, give us some money so that we can not be so terrible. Nobody? I mean, nobody? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. How could this team be this bad? It's not possible. It is impossible. I refuse, in principle, to believe that this team is actually this bad. Maybe they are. They just are. Who was their all-star this year, actually? Who was their all-star this year? Whoever their all-star was, that's the guy that should have traded. Okay? That's who should have been traded. Whoever their all-star was this year, that's who should have been traded. I don't know who it was. Now I got to look this up. White Sox All-Star 2025. Team by team breakdown of the 2025 All-Stars. Okay, here we go. Let's see. White Sox. Okay, that's Garrett Crochet. That's not. Okay, Shane Smith. Where's Shane Smith? Is he on the team? Did they cut him? Okay, he's a rookie. Okay. I mean, he hasn't been great. But, again, you couldn't trade him? You couldn't do it. What? You are so bad. You're the Chicago White Sox. I don't need to tell you how bad you are. How is it that you come away from this trade deadline doing nothing? Not a single thing. Impossible. Impossible without you deliberately being this way. Without you choosing to make the wrong decision. And speaking of choosing to make the wrong decision, the Los Angeles Angels. I genuinely don't know a single player on this team. Now, granted, that doesn't bode well for trading players' purposes. But there's got to be somebody that is worthwhile. Maybe there's. Hold on, I am actually curious. Who's on this team this year? Who is on the 2025 Los Angeles Angels? Logan O'Happy, Nolan Shanuel. They're probably not going to trade him. He's 23 years old. Who leads the team in WAR? Zach Neto. I guess they probably don't want to trade him either. You can't trade Taylor Ward. He's 31 years old, left fielder. Nobody wants him. Got a 2.3 WAR. Batting 235, 116 OPS. When do they have him sign through? Sign through this. He's gonna be a free agent. I might retire after reading that. They couldn't trade it. How are these teams allowed to operate this way? Because even even when the Tigers were really, really bad, and Al Avila was a GM, and he was a bad GM, and he made a lot of bad trades, and the rebuild just sucked around it. Okay. Even in that case, at least he's making a trade. And that is, wow, what a statement. They're not, it's like they don't know they're bad. And that's the worst kind of thing. Even if your GM is not very good, even if your GM is not aware of not aware of how to make a good team. If he is aware of at least what the team is, that is a start. And that, that's not a good finish, but it's a start, right? I don't know how you can't trade anybody. I mean, I'm just going through their top war. You can't trade Kenley Jansen? Can't, anybody. I mean, anybody. I just don't get it. I don't get it. How do these teams exist? They have Kevin Newman on this roster. Didn't he used to play for the Pirates? Wasn't he okay? He's terrible this year. I remember him being okay for the Pirates. Yeah, I mean, yeah, in 2022, he had a pretty decent year. He only played 78 games, but in those 78 games, he's pretty good. I don't know. All right, let's read the chat here. Realization that 3 of the 4 Detroit GMs all seem to ignore the biggest needs of the teams they run. Let's see. I'm going to continue on. Brad Holmes to the D edge. Scott Harris in the bullpen. Steve Eisman in the D-men. Trajan Langdon doesn't seem to have the problem yet. Okay. This is what I'll say. And I've said this before. I don't know. As far as, we can get into the Lions here. But, as far as the bullpen goes, I don't think we didn't acknowledge it. I think Kyle Finnegan's a solid ad. Would I have liked Johan Duran? Sure, but I don't know that he was actually coming to us. I don't know if Minnesota was going to do that. As far as some of the other trades that were made, I mean, I think Morton is okay. I think he's solid. And what's his name? The other one, Paddock, obviously, down 3-1, but solid since that first inning. I think the moves that were made were fine. They didn't make a massive splash. That's really that seems to be the big thing that people are hanging up on. As far as Brad Holmes goes in the D edge, none of the big defensive edge guys that people talked about, myself included, none of them actually were really that available. I mean, Myles Garrett ended up signing back with the Browns. Max Crosby ended up signing back with the Browns. Trey Hendrickson, he hasn't done anything, but he will probably end up signing back with the Bengals. As I say that, Chris Paddock gives up a home run. Okay, well, that's great timing. But anyway, yeah, I don't know that there was really a whole lot of realism to who specifically could have been gotten. I mean, maybe Zadarius Smith, but he's not exactly a big splash. And obviously, no other teams in the league seem to value Zadarius Smith, let alone us. So there's that. 19-26 against winning teams is bad. I agree. Although I don't actually know. Okay, so I heard this stat. Let me see, because I know it updates every day, presumably. Let me just see what it is right now. Because right now it's showing me 26-30 against teams above 500. Now, I do want to put this in some context because the Phillies are 500 against 5 teams above 500, 27-27. The Dodgers are 25-30. We have the same record, presumably. Again, I don't know where some of these numbers come from. Against teams above 500, the Padres 26-30. I'm not saying that it's good. I'm just saying, I don't think that's the only stat one can look at, especially because teams that are above and below 500 change not every day, but every week or so. Team that was below 500 is now above 500. Team that was below 500 is now, or wait, didn't I just say that? Team that was above 500 is now below 500. Again, I'm not saying that it's good that we have a bad record against these winning teams, or at least a losing record against these winning teams. But I also don't know that it's indicative of anything in particular about the Tigers that is not also indicative about some of these other teams. Hard to beat other winning teams. It's also hard to beat, teams in general, night to night. So, oh boy. All right, Paddock. I said let the 3 runs be the only runs you give up on the night, and you did not do that. And it's especially bad because we had just gotten the run back. So that's unfortunate. Maybe it's like the Twins were used to him, because they played. It was a teammate of theirs. That's probably it. But yeah. So overall, I mean, I talked about it just before. But the Tigers' schedule going into this month, very winnable. Very not a. I don't like to say it's an easy schedule because these are major league teams and they are playing to win. Granted, some have more of that ability than others. But yeah, I mean, it's like you play the A's on the road. You play the Twins twice. And obviously right now that doesn't look too promising. But, you play the Royals twice. You play the White Sox. You play who else did we play? Hold on. Just pulled it up. Play the Angels, speaking of. Yeah, you have a lot of teams that you can beat up on. But again, it's like, I guess I also made this point. The goal of the deadline in any sport is to get better at the deadline. Obviously, in certain circumstances, there are some things you just have to do. Like last year with the Lions getting Zadarius Smith, that was just like they were going to run out of players, so they had to do something, and they did. And with the Tigers, they got some pitching injuries, bullpen depth. I can't say that I'm like completely apoplectic. Like I'm not saying it's the most amazing deadline ever, but I'm also not saying it's the complete worst deadline ever. And ultimately, we'll see really how it ends up working in the long term. I mean, like on paper, I think the Yankees might have had a better deadline, but I don't know what's going on in that organization. But they can't win for losing. And the Dodgers, this is another team as well. I'm surprised they didn't do anything. I didn't mention the Dodgers at all because they didn't do anything. Like maybe they probably made some trade. I actually don't know. If they did make a trade, it certainly wasn't that noteworthy. Then you might say, oh, well, they're already a really good team. And it's like, well, they've been kind of struggling here. They've been struggling at least around that same rate as the Tigers, at least recently. Like, let me actually pull up the Dodgers. The Dodgers schedule. Let's pull them up. Yeah, they won 2 out of 3 against the Rays. So they started the month of August pretty well. And then obviously they swept the White Sox. Jeez, poor White Sox. But they get swept by the Astros. They get swept by the Brewers. They win 2 out of 3 against the Giants going into the All-Star break. They get swept by the Brewers again. They win 2 out of 3 against the Twins. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Red Sox. They win 2 out of 3 against the Reds. So, like, honestly, a very similar month of July. Like, when you really go down to it, like, beat up on the bad teams for the most part, get beaten up by the good teams. Now, that's not to say that the Dodgers or the Tigers are both going to get eliminated in the first round, but it is to say it's baseball. There's still two months left to go here. So we'll see what ends up happening. Tigers are inconsistent as hell. I don't care what their schedule is this month. Well, then why do you even watch? I don't want to be mean, Zingdad. I appreciate the viewership and hanging out, but like, I mean, you got to play the games. Like, they're going to lose games to teams you don't want them to lose to, or well, to teams you don't expect them to lose to. But they're also going to win games you don't expect them to win. And hopefully they get back into that mode they were in the first 2-3 months. But like it's just that's how sports are. Like you're not gonna go 162-0, or I guess in theory you could. No, I don't think that's possible. I actually don't think that is possible, like mathematically. Well, maybe mathematically it is possible, but in practice it's not. Nor is it in principle or in any way. But anyhow. Look, it's like people have the right to be upset about the deadline. They have the right to be upset about the team losing, but it goes back to that old adage where when you're in a losing skid, it feels like you're never going to win again. And when you're in a winning skid, you feel like you're never going to lose again. Like, I try to maintain a consistency as to what the team is, regardless of what the most recent thing is going on with the team. So when they were winning a lot in May and in June, it wasn't like, this team has no flaws. We don't need to do anything at the deadline. We're never going to struggle at all. Now we're in that struggle, and I'm saying, well, you're struggling. And to be fair, I mean, like, if we lose tonight against the Twins and we win tomorrow, are we really going to say that this is like the biggest struggle ever? Like, you lose 2 out of 3 to the Phillies on the road. I don't think that's anything to really be ashamed about, especially because you were in most of those games. Granted, the shutout on Sunday was just sad. Not a fun game to watch, but again, it's baseball. You're gonna have one of those nights. You're just gonna it's gonna happen. And yeah, I don't know. I'm talking in circles a little bit here. So, is he safe? Yes, he's safe. Go back, Zach. Go back. Jeez, that looked like something out of like Super Mario Baseball or Super Mario. What's the baseball? Mario Super Mario Baseball home run stolen base. He like kind of like his animation flipped so that he could go back to the bag. At least it's not a double play. Hopefully the thing that does hopefully Glaber is not actually like hurt long term, because that could really be a struggle, because he's been great, and the offense is obviously not going to get better with him going down. Okay. Javi Baez. Come on. Can we just, like, home run would be nice, because it's still very early in this game. It's something to kind of get us back into the groove of things. This guy's got like a 5 ERA. He's pitching us like Greg Maddux. Oh. Oh, man. That was good contact, but it went foul. Okay. We'll see how this inning ends, and then I'll get into some NFL stuff. Just to switch things up. 62.1% of four-seam fastball usage in 1-1 count. That is that is consistent. That is a lot. Oh man, he caught it. Ugh. Cody Clemens. This man is going to be in my nightmares tonight. I'm going to dream about Cody Clemens, and he's going to be ripping my heart out. That's what he's going to be doing. Anyway. All right. That's enough about baseball. I'm sure we'll update the Tigers game as it happens, but I want to do a little bit of NFL stuff. Let's talk just first with the news, because that's more interesting than any preseason stuff I can talk about with the Lions. A couple of trade requests out of the NFC East. Terry McLaurin randomly requests a trade. I really don't know where this comes from. I'm assuming that's obviously contract related, but like I want to say like a day or so before, I remember seeing something with Dan Quinn where he was like, "Oh yeah, Terry McLaurin's great. Yeah, we're doing fine." And then like the next day, I want to trade. Okay. And it kind of goes into like, all right, like, Commanders, they had obviously a fantastic season last year. They made the NFC Championship game. Rookie of the year in Jaden Daniels. They feel like they're back. And then this. Like, I just don't. I don't know how they're not paying him to begin with. He's one of the more underrated receivers in the league. Terry McLaurin is. But furthermore, you just made the NFC Championship game partly on the back of Terry McLaurin being a very positive addition to your offense. So, like, it does seem like a little oversimplifying. But I'm of the opinion that you sign good players and avoid signing bad players. Terry McLaurin is a good player. So sign him. Like, that should be a no-brainer. I don't know why it comes to this with these guys. And because now it's like the cat kind of comes out of the bag in the sense that, like, oh, okay, I feel like I'm not getting valued here, so I have to pressure you into doing this. It's like, don't like that. That doesn't look good as an organization, because then it's like, okay, what are you going to do when it comes time to pay Jaden Daniels? Assuming that he, goes off the trajectory that he started on in his rookie year, you're going to have to pay him a lot of money, as in top quarterback in the league money, whether you like it or not. So, anyway, speaking of trading, Rafael Montero making his debut with the Tigers right now. So, he can at least keep this 4-1. That would be nice. That would be nice, Montero. Micah Parsons also, by the way, requesting a trade. Now, this one is just like, are the Cowboys a real football team? Like, honestly, are they like an actual real, like, they're functioning, the goal is to win and be a better, or are they just a brand? And I've made this point, I think I made it a couple of years ago, maybe last year. The Cowboys are just kind of like a brand at this point. They're not actually functioning in a way that a real football team should be functioning in, which is, again, pay good player, don't pay bad player. Micah Parsons is one of the top defensive players in the NFL, and he's been that way since he was drafted. He was one of the guys that this was when Brad Holmes took over. He was one of the guys that I really would have liked Brad Holmes to take. Ended up taking Penei Sewell. It works out for both ends. I digress. I don't know how Jerry Jones consistently will get to this point with his star players. Like Dak Prescott. I think he's overrated, but you can get a whole lot worse at quarterback than him. So, of course, you got to pay him. Nope, he's got to hold out, and then it takes forever, and then you sign him right before week 1, and then you have a disaster of a season. CeeDee Lamb, one of the top wide receivers in the league, elite, superstar, great player, one of one. Wait for a while, holding out. I'm pretty sure, I don't remember if he requested a trade. Then finally you sign him right at the very end. And it's like, you're not getting ahead of things. You're not saying, we value you a lot. We want to get this done. We're not going to sugarcoat it. We're not going to, pull one direction or the other. We're just going to go right for it and sign you. And they should have been doing the same thing with Micah Parsons. But they let it get to this point where now he doesn't feel valued. So now he's requesting a trade. Is he actually going to get traded? Almost certainly not. But you have now created this culture where the Cowboys do not value their players adequately. They wait too long to pay them. Then they finally do it. But the player is just totally exacerbated to the point where he's like, I don't even know that I really want to stick around here. like, who knows? Like, Micah Parsons, I don't know how much leverage he's going to have, but obviously if they give him the money that he wants, he's not going to not take it. But, like, if you are really going to wait this long, then why don't you just trade him? Like, if you truly are, like, so confused about the value that Micah freaking Parsons gives you, then trade him. Because clearly you don't want him, which is fine. You don't have to want Micah Parsons. You'd be stupid not to want Micah Parsons, but you don't have to want Micah Parsons. You just have to show at least some level of, I don't know, brain, like ability to identify good player versus bad player. Wait, how is he safe? That is crazy. Are you kidding me? Where's the ball? How is he safe? There's no way he's safe. The throw beat him by like a mile. Okay, I'm sorry. I just need to focus in on this. There's no way he's safe. Oh, maybe he got his right hand in? Is that what he was looking at? Oh, I don't know, Jim. That's a tough one. I'm sure they're going to review it, but who knows? Anyway. Yeah, I don't, and now I'm like, I don't know. His hand was kind of up. I don't know. Anyhow. Jerry Jones, I would say I feel bad for Cowboys fans. Anyway, moving on. I don't really have anything to I guess I don't feel that bad for them. like I feel bad in the same way that maybe I feel bad for like a Lakers fan right now. You know? It's like, oh, yeah, that kind of sucks. They're not doing too hot. You know, LeBron holds them hostage, but sucks. It's just like, yeah, Jerry Jones is terrible. But he bought the team, so he got you at least one Super Bowl 30 years ago. At least one. I mean, multiple in the 90s when he had the team, but despite him, they managed to do that. So it really actually is unfortunate for the NFL because they are the highest valued team, which is incredible. Just given we are 30 years removed from them being good. So it's like, how are they still that highly valued? I guess credit to Jerry Jones for marketing them, but and the TV networks for marketing them. But there have been teams that are a lot better that are not making as much money. So it's obviously not about money, at least not to these guys. I don't know. Huge Lakers fan, hate LeBron. Many such cases. Many such cases. So that's that. I do actually want to talk a little bit about this Lions preseason game. So we're not going to go into depth because they got blown out, and there's not a whole lot you can do with that. But also, it's a preseason game where none of the starters played on either team. There's really no scheming that happens in these games. There's not a whole lot of planning. It's more of just, let's see what happens if we have Kyle Allen throw a slant route. Let's see what happens. We'll see. And largely, I took away a couple of positives. Okay. Positive number one, I think, is pretty obvious. And it's Isaac Tesla. 2 catches for 46 yards. He caught a 24-yard long. He had a total of 3 targets. I think one of them was maybe an overthrow. But a good debut for a guy that was taken in the 3rd round, I believe. Look, he's a local prodigy. I think a lot of people are fairly high on his potential. And look, I mean, as much as I like Tim Patrick, they brought him back. I think that wide receiver 3 or 4 spot is certainly wide open, and it's a development thing, right? It's a development thing, and it's a depth piece. If Tim Patrick is just too good and he's just taking the spots, that's fine. You keep a Tesla in your back pocket to where, okay, maybe Tim Patrick has to leave a play or two. You still got a pretty solid weapon there developing behind him. Really, really good stuff. I was not sure how much of him we were going to see, but I'm happy with what I saw. The other player I was happy with what I saw was Dominic Lovett. He's another player that we took, another wide receiver we took pretty late. I think maybe 6th or 7th round. I think. I don't remember exactly when we took him. But he had 5 catches for 31 yards. His longest was only a 10-yarder, but he also had a punt return, I believe. Let me see if I can find that. Yeah, he also had a punt return for 22 yards. So, again, maybe Dominic Lovett, he could be kind of taking over the potential Khalif Raymond role where he's a bit of a return man. He's also a receiver. He's got some speed to his game. I came out of this game looking like, okay, we're going to have a pretty, not that we didn't already, but we're going to have a pretty solid room of wide receivers, both, guys that are going to be starting every day and some depth pieces. So Liked what I saw from both Tesla and Levitt. Now on to the negatives. And these are far more present. I don't know where we found Kyle Allen, but if he is in any way related to Josh, I think we got the wrong Allen. This guy was not good. He was not the worst quarterback I've ever seen play for the Lions, but he was not far off. Like he was not very good. There's no doubt in my mind that this guy should not be our first backup. If he's our first backup, that's not good. Now, granted, if you're going to your backup, you're probably in a tough spot anyway. But then we get to the second half, and in comes the savior, the godson, Hendon Hooker, sent down, well, I guess up from the trenches of the University of Tennessee. And he basically did nothing. Like, he went 3 for 6, 18 yards, had an interception. I don't even remember that interception, honestly. He just wasn't very good, okay? He scrambled 3 total times, had 9 yards. There was one play where I think he scrambled and he got like 2 yards, and then they cut to Dan Campbell, and he was just so mad. Like, I don't know. I guess he didn't like how the play developed, which, I mean, based on the way that the play ended up going, I don't blame him. But now it leaves me with this. Like, what was the point of drafting Hendon Hooker if he can't even be a good backup? Like, I was willing to defend the Hendon Hooker pick all those years ago. I mean, it actually was multiple years ago at this point. Just because it's like, okay, it's always good to have a backup quarterback that you're developing, right? That you could just have this guy that you think, okay, he's at least solid enough that let's bring him in. Let's maybe inculcate him into our culture and maybe mold him into a not necessarily the new starter, but at least a backup to where if our starter goes down for one game or goes down for one series, we can put this guy in. He knows the system. He's going to be prepared and ready to go. Hendon Hooker has shown no sign of that. And it became even further proven when they signed last year. They signed Teddy Bridgewater in the middle of the year. And they brought him in when Jared Goff went down in the playoff game against the Commies. But they didn't bring in Hendon Hooker, who had been on the team all that year, who had played the entirety of the postseason, the entirety of the preseason, minus, I think, game 1 when they put Nate Sudfeld in. And I feel like, and I know, again, like I just said, the backup quarterback is not, like, if you don't have a backup quarterback, I don't think it really changes you that much because you need your starting quarterback to win the Super Bowl. Pretty much. Outside of Nick Foles, there's never been an instance where a backup quarterback just comes in and goes on a Linsanity run and wins you the Super Bowl. But it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to have a solid backup. Unfortunately, Teddy Bridgewater signed today with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, so he's out. I don't even know who else is available. Honestly, I don't. Is Brian Hoyer out there? Just trying to think of, like, is Chad Henne? Is he out there? Who else is who's like an infamous backup? What about Carson Wentz? Is he out there? Maybe get Carson Wentz. What about Andy Dalton? Is Andy Dalton available? I don't know if I want him in the playoffs, but is he available? Again, I'm not saying that any of these guys are good. We're talking about backup quarterbacks, so it's it is what it is. Now, I do have one thing that I do want to say as well. To all the people with any actual concern based on this game, stop. Just stop. Okay, there is nothing about this game that means anything. Even the positives, even Tesla and Lovett, even those things, they don't really mean anything. It's all just feel good. like when you do good, you feel good. But if you don't do good, I don't really care. And if it's so the whole point of these games is that they are exhibition games. And that means that coaches and players, even to some extent, they're not playing to win. They're playing to earn a job. So the players you might say that they're definitely trying to go out there and make a name for themselves. But even that, it's a little bit different than playing to win, because playing to win is like, okay, I don't need the ball to come to me. I will, go out there and make the right play for the team in the moment. And also, I mean, John Morton calling the offense. Is he what do you think he's doing? Do you think he's like, oh, we need to run our trick play? It's like, no, I mean, like, yeah, they went for it on fourth down. They were fairly successful for it when they went for it on fourth down. Let me actually look at the team stats here. Yeah, I mean, Lions were 2 for 4. And I mean, I imagine a couple of those fourth down goes were at the end of the game when they were down like 100 points. So, I don't think this is like I don't think this is indicative of anything. And Chris Collinsworth, and God bless him, he said, this game means nothing. He said those words. This game means nothing. And he's right. This game does, in fact, mean nothing. It doesn't mean, like, if the Lions would have won 34-7, sure, I suppose we would have felt better, but it's not actually real, right? You have none of your starters. You have depth pieces. You have, maybe some vets. I mean, Dan Skipper was out there. You had some of your draft picks. It's like you get to see them in a real life game situation, but not with any of the actual stakes. So you can lose the game, and I'm not going to be crying about it. Unless they lost 100-0. Then I might cry. That would just be bad. What would be the worst? There has to be some line, right? I don't know. Anyway, we'll see what ends up happening the rest of the preseason. I mean, if Hendon Hooker does not at least look like competent, like if he doesn't at least look like, okay, he's, at least Teddy Bridgewater strength, like, then I don't really know what the point of him is, other than as a piece of the depth chart. So it is what it is. Hendon Hooker's going to have to figure it out, or else he's just going to get replaced. So, you want to get replaced, Hendon? I imagine not. I hope not. I mean, I guess he's already kind of replaced by Jared Goff, but he was always replaced by Jared Goff. He just didn't know it yet. I also do have one thing that's totally irrelevant. When do they do the pictures for the current team that you're on ESPN? Or I guess the official team photo of the player. Because Tesla's wearing his Arkansas uniform in this. Kyle Allen's wearing his Steelers uniform. I know he's not the only one. I mean, Trey Lance is wearing a Cowboys jersey. Did they not take the pictures once they formalized it? I guess they haven't formalized the depth chart. So that's, you know what? I answer my own question. They probably take those pictures after they officially get the 53-man roster. Answered my own question. How about that? What do you say to that? But that's pretty much it. I don't have much else to say. So, all right. So a little bit of show notes here going ahead. So I will be out of town from this Friday to a week from this Saturday. So naturally, won't be doing the preseason game this week. And I probably won't be doing the preseason game next week. I'm pretty sure they play on that Saturday because I think it goes, what's the word? I think it goes Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Let me actually double check that. I'm pretty sure that's the way it goes. At least for the Lions, I think that's how it goes. Full schedule. Yeah, okay, so it's Friday, Saturday, and then they actually got 2 Saturday games. So the next Lions broadcast will probably be that Texans game at home to end the preseason on August the 23rd. I guess I'd be back around at that point. So that's probably when I'll be available. But anyhow, I will be back, or I will be gone next Tuesday as well. There won't be a show Tuesday, so this will be the last you hear from me for at least 2 weeks. So hopefully by the time these 2 weeks pass, the Tigers will have gotten on to some crazy hot streak. Maybe they'll have won like 10 in a row or something, and everybody will feel good about everything. And I doubt that's going to happen because that's just not how it's not realistic. But anyway, I do appreciate anyone for stopping by and listening and hanging out. Please be sure to hit the like, hit the subscribe button as well. It does help me identify the kind of content that people are responding to. So, yeah, I got nothing else to say. Hope everybody has a great rest of their night. And I'll talk to you on August the 19th. That's when we'll be back. So I'll see you guys then. Have a good rest of your week. And I guess go Tigers. They're down 5, so it's a little unlikely they come back here. Have a good night. See you later. Have a good night. See ya.